I saw this sorry little mister for sale at my local hardware store. Not on discount, by the way, full price still, so it hadn't been reduced, but I thought it needed rescuing. So you might think this guy is destined for the SMP bin based on how dry and how ropey it's looking. It's on death's door, isn't it? But I reckon we can rescue this bad boy, bring it back to its former glory, and I'll show you the full process in this video. And we're also going to come back a few weeks later to see how it's getting on. So this guy is a Dieffenbachia. You wouldn't really be able to recognise it, but it is a Dieffenbachia. They've called it a leopard lily, not known it be called that before. £7, full price, hadn't been reduced, but I took it to the counter and asked for it to be reduced, and he seemed surprised I wanted to buy it, so he gave it to me for 50p. So obviously, the main thing that you can see is that it looks like it's not been watered for about a month. Very, very dry in here. We'll get it out of the pot in a minute, have a proper look at the roots. But obviously all the leaves are going crispy and stuff. But the thing that gives me hope with this plant is the fact that the central stem, which is down here, is still nice and firm. So it looks like there is still water in the leaf tissue, in the central stem. Obviously the leaves around the edges have gone by the wayside, and there's a new growth point just there, just starting to emerge. So I reckon if we clean this up, give it a good drink, a bit of a repot, and we should be able to bring it back to its former glory. So let's see just how dry this is. So it came out dead easily, and yeah, very, very dry in here. So what I think I'm going to do, I'm going to carefully tease apart some of this old soil that looks like it's at death's door, to be honest. So I'm going to get rid of the old soil. I'm going to repot it into some nice fresh soil from Sire Botanica, and that should reinvigorate the roots, and we should have a happier plant. So I don't want to mess around with the roots too much. I'm trying to be delicate to get rid of some of this soil. I don't want to get rid of all of it. I don't think that's necessary. It's just that when the soil's this dry, sometimes it's better just to get rid of some of the soil and then repot into some nice fresh stuff, set it up properly. So the roots do look nice and healthy. They're the right colour, nothing rotting in here. And they're not easily breaking away, which suggests that they're not completely dead. So that's a good sign. It's obviously just very, very dry. So this hopefully should perk up when it's been given a proper drink. I must say though, it's quite a nice chunky mix that they got it in. Lots of big bits of bark and stuff in here and perlite and stuff, so it was a good mix. It's just so the growers look like they've been doing a good job looking after it, but when it got to store, I think they've just forgotten to water in it for a good few weeks, because this is really, really dry. So I think that's probably it for the root ball. I don't want to mess around with it too much more. So the next stage for me is to just pull off these dead leaves, give it a proper clean up, so it looks halfway decent when we start potting it up. These leaves are looking a bit floppy, but not completely dead. You could leave these, but I'm going to be a bit more dramatic and cut these away, because once they go floppy like this, I find that Dieffenbachia leaves don't tend to come back. So I'm going to prune it right back and then just wait for fresh new growth to come along. So I'm basically replacing all the foliage. So it's a bit of a drastic move, getting rid of all the foliage like this. I think it's the best way to get a better plant in the long run. So what I'm going to do, a base layer at the bottom, pot my plant in. So where the soil line used to be, I want that to be more or less at the same level when I repot this plant. So it's going in about there, and then just backfill around. Okay, that is nicely in there now. And the next important stage is to give the soil a very, very good drink. Because you want the soil to settle around all the roots. You don't want any air gaps. Water is the best thing that does that. So give it a nice thorough drink, like so. Wait for the water to come out of the drainage holes. Just doing it a little bit slowly today. Once it does, it will settle, and then there'll probably be depressions. Like that one there is a depression where obviously the water has displaced the air in the pot where the roots were. And so that needs just topping up with a little bit more soil, I reckon. Like so. Press that in. And give it a nice good drink. You can't give it too much water at this point. You want to make sure you do give it a thorough drink so all the soil in the whole pot is fully saturated. So admittedly, this gal is looking a bit like a dog's dinner, isn't she? Wasn't expecting to cut off all of her foliage, which is what I ended up doing, but I thought while I was there, as it was looking all a bit ropey, I thought I might as well cut it all off and a new growth should start to come through, hopefully. So yeah, looking a bit ugly, but one of the things you can do to remedy that is to get a porcelain pot and pop it in there. So she looks at least halfway respectable now. So I'm gonna pop that under my grow lights behind me, little rehabbing station that I have, and hopefully new growth will come. So we'll come back in a few weeks. It's been 20 weeks since we did the work to that plant, and I bet you're all dying to see how it's getting on. And here she is in all her glory, sort of. She's now got 7 or 8 new leaves. So it has been living under my grow light just behind me, and it did push out new growth more or less straight away the first couple of weeks. I was expecting it to kick on and grow quite quickly, but it seems to have slowed down for some reason. Looks like we've got 2 healthy stems that are growing and 1 that seems to have died off, and then we've got some crispy leaves at the base, so I can pluck those off. But there is a little baby stem piece just there. Looks like that's emerging as well. So it looks like we're going to have 3 stems on this Dieffenbachia. The leaves do look nice and healthy. Maybe the latest leaf is looking a little bit crumpled, a little bit deformed as it's trying to emerge. Seems to be a common theme in my house for some reason. But if I get the pot out of this decorative pot, I can start to get a clue on how the roots are kind of faring in this pot, because there are the beginnings of some roots poking out of the bottom, which is always a good sign, I think. I tend to bottom water my plants, so if the roots are following the water and coming out of the bottom, then that's a good sign. It feels a little bit firm in the pot, but maybe there's some good roots in here. So what we're going to do, I've got my black tray here, I'm just going to pop it out of the pot and just see how the roots are doing. Hopefully this will come out in one piece. There we go. Okay, so it looks like new roots have filled out. Whoops. Maybe not filled out as much as I hoped, but try and hold this without it going everywhere. There are fresh new roots at the bottom of the pot. Not as many as I hoped, actually. I thought it would grow a bit quicker. I guess like the leaves, it's not grown that vigorously. But there is new growth, and they're exactly what you want to see. They look nice and healthy. They're not as frayed as they were when we first bought the plants. So yeah, all in all, not too bad. Not too bad. For your next viewing pleasure, then make sure you check out the video here, and I'll see you there.